Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. This is Firoz Manji from Daraja Press. Welcome to Organizing in the Time of COVID. We have a really interesting guest with us today. Mahmoud Zwahre is a Palestinian grassroots activist and academic. He is living in Palestine in Al Masra village, about 10 kilometers south of Bethlehem. He's been an academic and an activist and completed his PhD at Coventry University and is hoping to have his thesis published soon at Mobilization and Demobilization of Palestinian Society towards Nonviolent Resistance in the period 2004 to 2014. This whole issue of nonviolent campaign, it seems to be a central part of his experience. He has been organizing on against Segregation Wall and the illegal settlements carried out by Israel. He's one of the co-founders of a popular nonviolent resistance network called the Popular Struggle Coordination Committee. And he's coordinator of a popular resistance committee in this village where he lives, and works as the capacity building coordinator for the Popular Struggle Coordination Committee. I want to wish a very warm welcome to you, Mahmoud. Thank you for joining us here. We started a bit late, but I can understand the circumstances. Mahmoud, tell me something. I mean, perhaps start off by saying, can you give us some sort of idea of the nature of the pandemic in Palestine and what the response of the government and the community has been?
First of all, thank you for giving me this space in order to raise the voice of Palestinians in such critical time. And deep apologies for being late because of the cut off of the electricity for unknown reasons in a tiny village near Bethlehem. And the situation in Palestine now starts by the beginning of March. And it's the coronavirus started in my city, Bethlehem. As you may know, Bethlehem is a touristic city. People coming from all over the world to visit the holy sites in the city, especially the Church of Nativity. And at the beginning, we discovered the first case in Palestine for Palestinians and a Greek group. And from there, at that time, the Palestinian government responded to this by looking down the city from the other cities in Palestine, which is actually a good act from the government to isolate the city. There are factors that help to do so, which is the small towns in Palestine. The biggest city in Palestine is Hebron, which is around 600,000. But my city, Bethlehem, is around 250,000 Palestinians with the villages. So it was easy to lock down the city and to isolate it from the villages. So the strategy of the government was to divide the country into cells. Each city is a cell, each village is a cell, and no way to interact between the cells. And also within the cells, within the cell, there are other cells up down to reach the family. That is a cell by itself. And that helps. And also the people cooperated very well with the government and with the strategy of socially distancing people from each other. And the style life also of the Palestinians in the countryside also helped that the Palestinian be able to siege the virus and prevent its spread in Palestine. The number of infected people reached so far 440 or 450 cases. 4 Palestinians died so far, and the issue is the number is not increasing in a big scale, which is good, and the strategy of looking down is successful, and that by itself is a kind of success for the Palestinian government that is not controlling the entire territory of Palestine. The Palestinian government is controlling only around 20% of occupied Palestine. So the 80% is relying on the awareness of people and the self-organizing of the people who are living in what we called Area B. But to let the people know that the occupied Palestine, according to Oslo Accords, is divided into three categories. Area A, which is in theory supposed to be under full Palestinian control, which is no more than 18%. Area B, which is under military Israeli control, but on the civil in the civil system, it is under Palestinian control, and Area C, which is 61% of the land that is under full Israeli military occupation, where it is the areas that are open with the resources and everything. So when we are talking about the Palestinian strategy, it included the Area A and B and C, and Area B and C, it came as an grassroots initiatives from the people supported by the government. And we established what we call emergency committees. These emergency committees are establishing a kind of, we call them love points at the entrance of each village, where they check the people, where are they going, and if especially people coming from outside the villages, they stop them, asking them kindly not to enter the village. And also, there are important initiatives coming from the countryside, which is the style life of the people, the social capital of the people, the land. And the virus came in a time when the land is going to get birth, which is spring. And that for Palestinians is the golden time to come back to land, to cultivate the land. And with such good percentage of water this year, farmers are able to come and cultivate their land, to stay in their land every day, around 8-9 hours every day in their land, with their families, cultivating the land, preparing it for putting the seeds for vegetables and the fruit. And this is a kind of independent economy for occupied people to have their own income. And that is an amazing issue that formed an insight for Palestinians, which is what kind of a future the Palestinian state will have if we do not have our land, and especially Area C, that forms 61% of the Palestinian land. And in this situation, the Palestinians discover, or let's say renovate, the treasure of the land by coming back, by working and cultivating it. For example, in my village near Bethlehem, I see the people are cultivating the land on daily basis, and now they planted the seeds, and in 1 month, 40 days, they will start to get the harvest. And this is something good. And in social solidarity, people will swap the products in order to minimize the movement, in order not to move, and they will exchange products. And also they will send some of these products to the city people, to the refugee camps, where the people completely rely on buying goods and the products in order to feed their families. So this kind of shiny face that the coronavirus, let's say, open an opportunity, I would say, with all the sad face of the situation, that they went back to their land, they cultivated their land. And also another issue emerged during coronavirus, as I mentioned before, Area C is under full Israeli control, and Area B also is under military Israeli control. And here there is a struggle of sovereignty. And I can give you examples about this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if Jerusalem, any voluntary activity for Palestinians in East Jerusalem or Area C, the Israeli military will come and stop them. And that is strange for people who are implementing actions to prevent the spread of the virus, and they took the Palestinian flags. They arrest even people in Jerusalem, in East Jerusalem, because they were sanitizing the roads and the buildings and giving sanitization for people in the streets. And that is a kind of a struggle over the sovereignty on areas like Area C and Area B. And here we can see the symbolic actions of the Palestinians. For example, having a Palestinian doctor with his white clothes at the entrance of the village, this is a kind of symbolic actions that Palestinians show their sovereignty on their land. Now, on the other hand, this provokes the Israeli army. This provokes the Israeli settlers who are living, for example, near my village. I can give you some examples of what some practices of the Israeli settlers around our village. They throw clothes at the entrance of the village. And yesterday, the emergency committee in the village, they collected these clothes and they burned them because they were afraid that some of the children will touch them, some of the families will take them. So
these were infected clothes.
Yeah, they just throw clothes at the entrance of the village. And I can send you some of these pictures so you can show, and it's on the road. And more dangerous even, that one of the settlers brought medical wastes and he threw them in the bin at the entrance of the village. That is very strange actions that the settlers are doing. So for us, this is strange. This time supposed to be the time of peace, the time of unity between humans in order to stand together against this unknown enemy, unseen enemy. But to see like humans who are behaving like this, it is something strange and unacceptable and rejected from every human, even, that this is unacceptable.
When you say strange, I mean, given what amounts in practice to almost a genocidal attitude towards Palestinians, this is not so strange. It's consistent with what has been going on.
Yeah, I would say it's immoral, even immoral to do such thing, because I'm supposed to be, if I am injured or infected, to see an ambulance coming, even an Israeli ambulance, to take care, because at the end we are humans. But to see Israeli settlers who are throwing clothes and distributing sometimes clothes to some rural communities to give to their children in such time, and a week ago they were taking their land, that is immoral behavior. That is something we have to stop and to think deeply about such behavior of such human being in such time. And this, we don't know, this maybe will be able to spread the coronavirus in Palestine. Because I can give you another issue, which is the workers. The workers, before the beginning, we have more than 60,000 Palestinians working in Israel. And those on going to Israel with a special permission.
Hmm.
And when the coronavirus start to spread, Israel said that they want the workers to be in Israel for 2 months. And this means that they, if they get infected, they will recover in Israel, not to come back to Palestine and to spread the virus. What happened after 1 week of letting them in, they throw them back after 1 week.
Wow.
And this is a complicated situation. And when they come back, thousands of people coming back means every single village, there are workers from this village. This means that if these people are infected, they will spread the virus. And according to the statistics, 75% of the Palestinians who are infected by coronavirus are workers and the people who interacted with them.
Wow. And they've been sent back because they're closing down, they've lost their jobs?
Now, Palestinians are working without law in Israel, without any law, and this is why it's different. There are no system that can protect Palestinian workers. Absolutely not. So now, imagine all these tens of thousands of workers at home without salaries. Who is going to guarantee their salaries? No one. Even their employers will not pay them. So this is the situation. So the workers are on one hand don't want to hurt their families, and on the other hand they want to secure their food, their families, the resources for their families to survive. So in this situation, to die from hunger or to die by the coronavirus, this is the two choices that the workers have. And look at in relation to security, how things are changing. And this is going to be a lesson for conflict studies. Yesterday, security was defined in relation to something. Today, security is defined to another issue. And in Palestine, a month ago, the Israelis were blocking the Palestinian workers to go to Israel. And they have the checkpoints, the wall, everything. Nowadays, the Israelis are opening the gates in order to let the workers come in Israel to work, while Palestinians who are preventing the workers to go to Israel. So everything is vice versa now. At the time, I don't know if it is clear. Like,
so explain why the Israelis want Palestinian workers to come in now.
Now they want them to come to work because Israel is an industrial country that they cannot stop. They do not have this grassroots communities and so on. They do not have this. You can imagine like America or England like this. So they want the workers to come to keep working in different aspects, agriculture, industry, building, and everything. So they want them to. This is the like they will tell us that we want them to work, and this is a job opportunity. But do they offer the Palestinian workers the environment, the safe environment in such situation, like by having accommodation for them, to ensure the social distances between workers? Nothing. Some workers send us videos while they are at work, sleeping in the buildings that they are constructing with no conditions, with no single condition. And this also, like they discover factories in Israel infected by coronavirus, and these factories are full of Palestinians. Then these workers came back to Palestine, and but they don't know. And the Palestinian health capacity, it's true that the Palestinian government and the preventive strategy they managed, but on the medical level, we did like 50,000 tests, while Israel maybe did 500,000. So I don't know if I have the coronavirus or not, because I do not have the symptoms. I think that I am okay. But the reality is not like this. Especially children, youth, they cannot, maybe they will have it and they will recover without knowing. So workers are a big issue in relation to the spread of the coronavirus. I know a worker working in a settlement on a gas station. He infected his mother, his children, all his family members. And you are talking about big families. You are not. It's not the couple. It's children, mother, parents. In the evening, we are sitting here, maybe 15 people. The parents, the children, and so the workers form the challenge. And there are, as I said, there are no system that can secure the wages of these workers. So it's a kind of exploitation of the workers. So this exists before the corona. So imagine in the time of the COVID-19 and pandemic that workers even cannot reach their employers if they tell them we do not have money, we will not give you. So there are no rights. And this is a big issue since 1967.
Right.
Yeah, so I would also highlight another issue is relations, behavior, and how they took the advantage and for the coronavirus. They took the opportunity that Palestinians are under lockdown, and what they did, they increased their attacks against rural communities, and especially in Area C. Now, why this is happening? Because in our movement, let's say, which is the nonviolent movement in Palestine, we are joined, like let's say internationals, Israelis, Palestinians together. Part of our work is to document human rights violations. Part of our work is to organize direct nonviolent resistance. But now everyone is locked down. Internationals left the country. Israeli activists cannot come to us. Who is the only one on the ground is the settlers. The settlers who are attacking the Palestinian rural communities. I'll give you an example. Yesterday, in the South Hebron Hills, south of the West Bank, a Palestinian shepherd with his sheep in the fields, settlers attacked him because we trained this shepherd to carry cameras with them to document everything so we can legally follow or advocate for their rights and so on. When the army came, who's supposed to be in the middle to prevent any conflict between the settlers and the Palestinians, they took the camera from the guy, they took the memory card, and they give back the camera to the shepherd, and they told him, do you have any proof that the settler attacked you? He told them, you took the memory card. How come I have an proof if you took it? So these accidents shows what is the future, what kind of a future the settlers are waiting to attack Palestinians. They are more and more showing their guns. I saw settlers before, and I interacted with settlers, but there was a kind of hiding their weapons under their clothes. But now they are pointing their guns to the Palestinians.
Openly.
Openly. And that is something new. So, and if this continues, then they will be easily able to kick the Palestinians from these rural communities, which is few Palestinians living in huge areas. And this will change the style, the lifestyle of these people, from shepherds to I don't know, jobless people, because they do not have skills, only farmers and grazing sheep and so on. So this is a kind of future. Now, to what extent this situation fits with what's so-called Trump's peace plan. Now, Trump announced his plan, which is he is going to annex 40% of Area C to the Israeli state. And he wants to keep all settlers in their places and all Palestinians in their places, but the sovereignty over this area is for Israelis, and it's part of Israel. And if we look at the map, it is shrinking, it is fragmented, and no way to harvest it. Now, with the coronavirus, people look down, and they are at their homes. So settlers took the opportunity in order to draw the borders between the Palestinians and the settlers, and this fits exactly with the Trump's plan even more. This is on the micro level. Now, if we go to the Israeli national level, and we saw yesterday that Gantz, which he is from the center political parties, and Netanyahu, who is from the right wing, they agreed to have a unity government under one condition, is to annex the West Bank, to annex Area C immediately. And the conflict between the two, where Gantz, who is from the center, is looking to annex the West Bank gradually, while Netanyahu wants to annex the West Bank once, like in at the end agreed, and July we're expecting a more dangerous situation than the one that we are living now. We are now under a lockdown because of unseen virus that is affecting everyone. But in July, we will be living completely in lockdown, but by the Israeli government, by the Israeli occupation forces. That is how the situation is taking place when we see the Israeli soldiers are drawing the borders in the Jordan Valley around Jerusalem and having their full control over villages and over areas in the occupied Palestinian territories. And most dangerously is the East Jerusalem. And because, as you know, that America recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, and they transferred their embassy from Tel Aviv to East Jerusalem even. And that is, from that time, Israel is implementing a different kind of strategies to force Palestinians to leave, because they categorize people differently. And if we look in Israel, the percentage of the Palestinian doctors who are working in the Israeli hospitals are more than the percentage of the population of Palestinians in Israel. And this, they give the service, they give the medical service to the Israelis. Meanwhile, the Israelis does not distribute the medical service to the Palestinians the same way that the Palestinians are serving the Israelis in the medical service.
In fact, there have been reports of the Israelis seizing medical equipment that was destined for Palestine.
Yeah, and more even, I can give you an example. There was a medical deal between Turkey and Israel, that Turkey will supply Israel with medical kits for testing and so on, under one condition, which is to give Palestinian the same amount. They will give Israel, but they will give Palestine also. Israel refused. If Israel refused the deal, and that is an indicator. And in relation to medical tests, now we have in Israel 20% of Palestinians are living in Israel. They are Israeli citizens, 2 million Palestinians. If we compare the number of tests to the Palestinians who are carrying the Israeli citizenship, comparing to the Israelis, we will see the difference. We will see the big difference
Really?
between the two tests. And that is also another indicator. This is something, there are no VIP in Corona. And Corona, if it will kill like rich and poor, black and white, everyone. So why to discriminate? Why even to discriminate among Jewish themselves? Like you see now, for example, the Orthodox now refuse to social distance. They are the highest percentage in Israel that are infected by corona, because they refuse all this idea of corona and this. And Israel is facing challenge to quarantine them, but also they prevent the service to the Palestinians who are carrying the Israeli citizenship. And most dangerously is the Palestinians who are living in the suburbs of Jerusalem. The Palestinians who are living in the suburbs of Jerusalem are not under the Palestinian control, and they, in theory, are under Israeli control. And it's a very dense populated area. Each building has hundreds of residents. And yesterday, we discovered 60 cases in few buildings. This means that they are going to look all the area, and they want to block all the suburbs of Jerusalem, because Israel do not want to give equal medical service even to the Palestinians who are carrying the Israeli citizenship.
Right.
So that's another aspect of looking at what is happening during the corona time. Now, also some important things to mention. They constructed few kilometers of the apartheid wall around Jerusalem during the coronavirus. They digged an apartheid road east of Jerusalem that will not let Palestinians and Israelis use the same road. So in a way or another, they established the apartheid system during the corona time. And that is very dangerous, because through the current actions of the Israeli government, we can see the future. We can see what are the plans of the Israeli government if they are establishing bypass roads and Palestinians are not allowed to use, if they are continue to build the wall, if they are drawing the borders in the Jordan Valley to annex the Jordan Valley, if they increase the attacks against Palestinians in rural communities. And more than that, I would say on the individual level, there are Israelis who are trying deliberately to spread the virus in the Palestinian communities. This means that we are facing a dark future if there will not be a pressure generated on the Israeli government to stop establishing the discrimination, the apartheid system against the Palestinians wherever they are, even if they are living in Israel itself and carrying the Israeli citizenship. So these kinds of situation and practices from the Israeli government let us reflect about how we want to stand up, how we want to see the future through our lenses as Palestinians, not through the lenses of the occupation. And I think this is coming from for Palestinians to rely on themselves, to stand up, to unified, to self-organize themselves. And this is not something new to the Palestinian culture. Palestinians have passed difficult situations, such as the first Intifada, when they have this social solidarity and internal solidarity to bypass. And as an activist who believe in nonviolent resistance, I see a hope from crisis that brings people together. Not only the Palestinians, but also people all over the world. Because what kind of a future we are dreaming about? I think common values become the issue. Common values that we believe in it as humans is a secret for a new future emergence of movements to think about this. Because what connects me with activists, with people from different countries, from all over the world, is I feel I am close to them. I am part of them because we share the same thing. We share the same value. We want to see the world green, clean. We do not want to invest in weapons. We want to invest in something good, medical care, or planting trees. Such investment brings people together, because now it showed the weaknesses of the current situation in the economic level.
Let me just explore. I mean, one of the things that's come up in many countries has been that one of the consequences of lockdown is that people are closed up together, and there's been a marked increase in violence against women. Only the other day, we had a report from Al Jazeera about domestic abuse against Palestinians soaring. I wonder if you could comment on that.
Yeah, I would say, let's say, like, the Palestinian are not all living the same situation. So, for example, this is not exist in the villages where I am living. Lockdown is an opportunity. Like, to be clear and transparent, this is an opportunity for the farmers to work in the land. So the people start to go and spend their time in the fields. Now, people who are living in cities, in refugee camps, they cannot move, and even if they want to move, where to go? If you go outside your home, you will interact with people. But in villages, you cannot. You go, and few people. My village is 1,000, and we are on a huge area that we even do not see each other closely. So it's true that worries, stress come out, and we this reflected on the family relations, and this can also generate conflict between husbands, between families, and can lead to divorce, or can lead to violence. And but that is a very minority. Like, in my village, I didn't see any conflict arose as a result of the lockdown among families, but maybe in other places, yes. And because if the people, if you are used to a kind of life far away from individualism, people interact always together, going, traveling, and in different places, and suddenly you find yourself locked down in your house. Of course, this will generate violence. Now, uh, regarding the honor and all of these issues, of course, dense places always create social problems, not only in Palestine, all over the world. Where there dense population, there are social problems. And I think this has happened in Europe, in many countries, about social conflicts as a result of stress, as a result of lockdown. And this Palestine is part of this.
Can you talk a little bit more about Gaza? I mean, you've been focusing really on the West Bank, and that's a qualitatively different situation. I mean, when I visited some 10 years ago, it was clear this is just a huge, at best, refugee camp. It's can you say something more about it?
Yes, let me like explain you the situation of Gaza even before the pandemic is horrible. I mean, Gaza is in a big jail. Gaza is the most populated place, maybe all over the world, and the borders with Egypt, with Israel, are closed. So, for the moment, they are talking about 14 cases in Gaza, and they came from outside. But the question is how many tests they did in Gaza. It's very few. That's why we don't know the accurate situation about the infected people, even not only in Gaza, but also in West Bank. The other issue, I would say that the Israelis are now, in a way, they want to drop some medical services to the Gaza Strip to show this face to the world that they are supplying Gaza with medical aid and so on. But the reality, this is nothing compared to the actual situation in Gaza. This is one issue. The second issue, even about food, food itself is a problem before the pandemic. So how about now? So the image is coming from Gaza that they built the quarantine places for people to put them, but there are no actual tests to the people to discover if they are infected or not. However, in such situation, when the people are blocked, they will, I think, and this is what Israel is fearing, is if the situation gets worse in Gaza and the virus spread in Gaza, people will not keep silent. People will break the borders and they will come into Israel. And they know that because the Gaza people did it before. Did it before with Egypt when they destroyed the wall and went marketing in Rafah and they came back. And now with the Great March of Return, they know what does it mean, mass mobilization, mass participation of people in a non-violent way. The Israelis knows that very well, and that's what shake Israelis is if the Gaza start again to organize these mass demonstrations at the borders. They don't want it, and all the aids that they are giving to Gaza is just to stop the non-violent demonstrations that the Gazan people are organizing at the borders. But the image is dark from Gaza. The image, no electricity, no food. I mean, it's not enough. A shortage of everything, and the pandemic on top makes life more complicated. And I think Israel is supplying the few medical aids in order to show to the world that they are supplying Gaza, the same as in the West Bank, because some reports are coming out now. There is a good coordination between Palestinians and Israelis to face and challenge the pandemic. But this is Israel want to show the fake face of the state in order to manipulate the world that a kind of solution can come and implemented.
Okay, so finally, there's a nice comment from somebody in Uganda, which is great. Palestinians like you are faced with exclusion, with occupation, with military terror, with attacks, with violence, with discrimination, and so on. I mean, we could find many, many words for this. So, where do you get the courage to be non-violent in response to those challenges?
I mean, it's 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 uh, it's something inside you that enable you to overcome the fear that the occupation want to root inside you. And if you are rooted with fear, then you will go to violence, then you will go to use other kinds of resistance. which is I am not here against or with any other kind. But for me personally, I witnessed this. I mean, I saw my family, how they are living, how they are attached to their land. They give me a kind of hope by what they are doing that they managed to stay in their land. And my experience when I was a child during the first Intifada and seeing how the first Intifada has changed the people and enabled them to stand up, this image kept in my mind. And later on, when Israel started building the wall, and I saw two images. The first image is for a Palestinian woman hugging an olive tree, and the other image is a Palestinian farmer eating the soil of his land when the Israeli bulldozers are uprooting his olive trees and confiscating his land. That was the transformation point for me. It's two completely different culture. One is destroying and one is planting. One is hugging the tree as a son or a daughter, and the other is the tree means nothing for him. So this culture is closer to nonviolence, is closer to believe deeply in nonviolence, because at the end, I see the big gift that we give for the Israelis is to use violence. And the big challenge we form in front of the Israelis is to use nonviolence. And for me, I believe it deeply, and even it affected me on the two levels. If you want to say on the principled level and on the pragmatic level, I'm seeing nonviolence as the shortest distance, not only for Palestinians, but for all oppressed people, discriminated people all over the world, to bring the change is the shortest distance. And I am talking to you with 20 years of being involved in nonviolent resistance, arrested more than 80 times. His house has been raided many times, and they used even personal threats in my life. But I found myself more addicted to nonviolent resistance than any time before, because I know that this is part of my culture, part of the way that I've grown up, part of what I inherited from my family and my people during the first Intifada.
Mahmoud, I immense admiration for you and for people like you in Palestine who have been struggling for so many years. I really want to thank you for finding time to speak to me on this show. I know there'll be a lot of interest in people in listening to what you have to say. I hope we can keep in touch and perhaps in a little while to come back to you to get an update on how things are developing there. But in the meantime, really, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much. Again, it's my honor to be today with you and to raise my voice the same as you did, open windows for people from all over the world that I watched from Africa, Asia, many countries. That is a great platform for us to come together as a family to see the future in a different way from all over the world. Thank you very much. And anytime, and I will send you pictures, videos from what is happening during the pandemic.
Please, thank you, and keep well, keep strong, and please, our greetings to your family, uh,
Thank you.
and we will be in touch again. All
Thank
the
you very much.
best.
Thank you
Okay,
very much.
okay,
Thank you. Bye bye.
bye. That was Mahmoud Zwahre from Palestine. Thank you for joining us on this show, and I hope that the different interviews that we've been doing help to build up solidarity between people who are struggling on the same issues across the world. This is Firoz Manji saying Thank you and goodbye for now.